My next guest is Randy Williams. Randy is with Voltex, and I met you when you were at the ABB plant in Alamo, Tennessee. Yeah.
Yes,
and then we started having some discussions then, and now things have changed a lot. But welcome. Thank you so much, Randy.
Glad to be here.
So the last time we talked, you were doing business development for primarily Nomos, which is a company owned by Voltex.
Yes.
Now you're doing business development for Voltex. All that means is you travel more, right?
That's correct.
Okay, no,
That's
but talk to me a little bit about that.
Just more hats.
Okay.
You know, Voltex is an umbrella of companies.
Right.
It's NASS, which would be transformer, breaker, service, and substations. And then we have a protection control group,
right.
Where testers go in, and we have engineering with that type of it. And of course, then we have the Nomos control cabinets, which is sort of my baby, but it's just trying to learn the different businesses between protection and control versus substation services versus a control cabinet,
right.
and start having people cross-sell.
Okay.
So I'm trying to help develop that cross-selling within the business.
So what you describe is you've got a siloed holding company with a siloed businesses that's trying to say, you know, we're selling to the same customers, right?
Exactly.
Maybe not the same people at those customers, but you're selling to the same industry, the same customers. How do we look much more holistic to do that?
Exactly.
Okay. That's your job
described.
now?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. The last time you and I talked was about 2 years. I think it was in Atlanta. Didn't we do something? No, we were at that conference, the GE.
New Orleans.
It was New Orleans.
It was New Orleans.
IEEE-PEST&D.
It's exactly right.
What do you think? And a lot has changed in our industry. So focus on the industry for a while. What do you think is the most important, significant changes that are happening since even then? Because we don't have another IEEE-PEST&D coming up,
Yes,
right?
that's
So now you got a 2-year gap.
That's right.
What do you think you've seen in the industry has changed?
It's shocking to hear that transformer lead times continue to move out.
I know, it's
I mean,
terrible.
2 years ago, they were talking about 2-year, 3-year lead times. Now they're talking 5 years to get transformers.
Yeah.
And so what you see is the large utilities that were focused on 2 or 3 suppliers, and now they're having to go out to 15 different suppliers around the world to get transformers because the lead times have just shifted so far out. In a way, that's kind of helped us as NASS installing new transformers, so we're helping them install the new transformers. But if they can't get a transformer in 5 years and they got one that's limping, we do like a fix in place. So we do life extensions on existing transformers that they thought they were going to write off because they have no other safety margin in there.
So that's an interesting thing. There was, I won't name the utility, but they were making decisions on transformer replacements based on primarily one thing, age. And then they did a study and they said, hey, let's look at what if we had looked at some other criteria. Now, they didn't have some of the criteria, that they didn't have DGA on all of them, right? But they were looking at things, even things like the humidity of the substations that they were all in, because they could get that data. And they put some other, and they said, well, wait a minute, and they back tested. And they said, if we had used this criteria, we would have saved $200 million.
Wow.
Because we would have replaced the ones that should have been replaced because they failed.
Exactly.
Instead of replacing the ones that just on age didn't require, because it's a lot of things that make a transformer fail. I mean, you got the how the use case on them and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, that's a long-winded question. I got to set you up. That's a long-winded one. But as you look at that, you all are into the protections. How do you give people data to say? Do you wait until they tell you, "Hey, come in and do something"? Or are you able to say, "Give us some of your analytics"? And we can help you make a decision to what to do to repair or upgrade or change a transformer. Are you doing anything of that from an analytics
Yes,
standpoint?
we work tightly with a few utilities that we get all of their data.
Okay.
And we help them with the diagnostics of, what's going bad, what's starting to shift or trend in a direction that's good, bad, or ugly.
Okay.
And so, we do a lot of that. I mean, a lot of the people on the NASS side of our business are ex-utility people,
right,
with 30 years of experience. So they sit in that spot. And so they totally understand not just the diagnostics of that transformer, but they understand why this guy has to make a decision to take it out
Right.
for life extension or replace.
Right. One of the other things, you all involved in mobile subs at all?
No.
It's supporting some of the things. So a lot of people are doing that too.
Yeah.
That in and of itself creates a huge problem when you suddenly a transformer goes out, you can't get the replacement, the footprint's weird, and you got to bring in a mobile sub. Some of that is happening.
We use them, we bring them in for the customer.
Okay.
No, we utilize them when we take outages for them, just like with PG&E.
Right.
I mean, they have a lot of mobiles, but we use their mobiles for their outages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do get involved in the
We do
mobile.
get
That's
involved, but
that's
yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
And that to me has got to be one of the answers to this problem, because what's happening, and there's two things that are happening. If I am a data center or I'm an industrial company, I'm not on the list for a lot of these transformer people. You know why? Because they make long-term contracts with the utilities.
Exactly
The
right.
utility's going to buy everything that they make for 5 years. This guy comes along and says, "Hey, I got 3 major power transfer." It's like, get in line.
Yeah.
So there's almost a cascading problem in the United States. Data centers who need a lot. I mean, some of these data centers are huge, and their power usage is huge. So they need power transformers. Industrial, whether that's steel manufacturing, we're bringing it back onshore.
Yeah.
They need transformers because they've got aging transformers.
I think some of the people that are getting hurt by this are the munis.
Oh yeah,
They have no power.
yeah.
They have no power or leverage to say, "Hey, we bought 2 from you 2 years ago." You know? And then you have some of these large utilities that just went from 40 transformers a year to 90, and some are projecting 195 new transformers a year for the next 5 years.
Wow, that's a field day for NASS because they all got to be installed.
They got to be installed. Yep.
Yeah. Let me switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about what I would call the problem that NASS has, that everybody that does service out there, it's people.
Yes.
Getting people who are skilled enough, trained enough, because they got to be skilled enough to do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They also have to do it safely because sometimes you're out there in harm's way.
Exactly.
Talk about that problem and how NASS is overcoming that.
So NASS at one time had a NASS Academy.
Okay.
And that's where they would onboard.
Was it called a NASS Academy?
Just NASS Academy. And so when Voltex came in and said, now we have the EPS group, Protection Control, and we want to do that type of training, just like NASS is doing the onboarding, the safety and everything. So Voltex has a Voltex Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, that has got every type of instrument that known to man with electrical testing and everything. We actually have the transformers there, we have bushings there, we have circuit breakers there, we have all of the distribution equipment there, and that's where we do all of our training internally.
And it's energized so that they're actually seeing what it looks like?
It's seeing what it looks like.
Okay.
Because it's going to be live in the field.
I want an invite. I'd love to. I live in Atlanta. I can get my son.
We'd love to
teaches
have you
in
up there. It's a beautiful facility.
Yeah, because I think
it's
that's
about
the future.
safety first, just like you said.
Yeah.
It's where we do our onboarding for safety.
Okay, talk about cabinets now. Let's go to Novos a little bit. Okay,
I get excited now.
I know. See, I see you sit up. Talk about what's changing in that world and why.
So when they first allowed me to take on the Nomos control cabinet, people have been buying their transformers for many years by just the control cabinet was part of the spec,
right?
And they didn't pay attention to the layout or the type of materials or breakers inside. They didn't try to standardize inside that cabinet.
Okay.
So now, 10 years ago, they were buying from 3 different transformer OEMs.
Yeah.
Who cares? Now they're buying from 15 different transformer OEMs.
Yeah.
So they're getting 15 different cabinet designs. They have to review all of the designs every time. And so it allows for mistakes. What Nomos does, we come in and we standardize their control cabinet. So we just took a major utility, just recently, a major utility from 12 MVA transformers to 480 MVA transformers, one cabinet.
Oh, really?
Everybody would have thought, well, right now we're buying 3 different sizes of cabinets. And the schemes are all different. One cabinet.
One cabinet.
One that has LTC with non-LTC or type of monitoring that they're using.
Right.
And it's a plug and play. So every cabinet on their transformers, and if they buy 100 a year now, it's going to look the same. And the key is, it's not just the engineering up front that they're saving and the safety on the front side. It's that guy in the field when he goes out there at midnight and it's raining, and he has to open up that cabinet door, and it looks totally different, or the parts are different inside that cabinet. So that it was shocking even to the utility that we were able to standardize from 12 MVA to 480 MVA.
That is amazing. So basically, you've taken the individual spec of the control cabinet that the transformer manufacturer is doing, and now you are part of the spec, because that makes it standard.
It's a part number for him now.
It's
a part number.
That is absolutely a great business thing.
So you know, they specify the type of tap changer they want. They specify the bushings that they want, but they left the control cabinet open to the engineering of that transformer grid. Right. So it's just changing the way they've been buying for many years. We're not changing technology.
Right.
It's just changing their thought process of, wow, we can do all the engineering up front and get one cabinet, one part number, and I never have to review anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love, because there's so much transient in staffing. The next guy coming in, it's easier to train that guy if it looks the same everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And not like, well, that's not last area I worked in, it looked like this. This doesn't look like this anymore. It is a big safety issue too.
It's big safety.
Yeah.
So the other challenges I've been seeing lately is parts. People just can't get parts. It could be just a nut and a bolt. We had a major utility call me the other day and said, hey, you still got that control cabinet company up in Canada? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, our panel shop is shut down. We're sending people home because we don't have 50-cent wire lugs to build their panels.
Really?
So they're stopping their whole production and sending people home over something that you would think you could go buy at the hardware store. So we shipped them 500 to keep them going for a few days. But the supply chain is a nightmare right now, even the simple things.
Yeah. There's a big move in our country to, I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say this, but I'm saying it anyway, de-China-ize everything.
Yes.
Is because there was a risk factor, and suddenly we said, no, we need to bring the manufacturing. That's one of the problems, but now we're buying transformers pretty much from everywhere we can get them, except China.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the huge, it's the growth not being planned for. Mm-hmm. There's not enough capacity in manufacturing. It's all sold out. Do you see the solution? Because if I were a transformer manufacturer, I'd be a little hesitant to react to short-term supply chain issues. I don't want to build capacity that 5 years from now is now, okay, now I can't keep the beast running.
Exactly.
Do you see that this is a permanent change, that if you were speaking to transformer manufacturers, you'd say expand, 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 particularly in this country?
I would say that the best thing to do is not put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay. What does that mean?
Well, have more suppliers and keep them all busy instead of giving everything 100% to one. And that's probably what they've been doing mostly, you know. So, they need to distribute that amongst their top 5 or something like that.
Do you think that's one of the reasons that we're 5 years out on transformers that we were 2 years out on? Part of it's demand, part of it's demand curve, part of it's supply curve. Do you think that's part of the reason?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's skilled labor. You can't just go get somebody off the street to build a transformer. And so we went through a time period.
And they're still handmade.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these guys that are in these factories, 40 years of experience, and then you're going to pull somebody off the street and get him inside of a transformer or do the winding of a transformer. It's hard to train somebody in a short period of time to be good at that job.
I know a manufacturer that tried to solve that problem by using engineers, by bringing engineers in. What happened is the people that do that hands-on work have a certain capability, skill set. Mm-hmm. Engineers have a certain capability, skill set, and it's usually not hands-on work, right? Yes, it's definitely. I'm an engineer, and I can tell you, don't let me. If I touch it, I will bleed, and it will break.
Yeah.
It's bleed and break, and it's really struggling because then now it's creating a quality issue. That's the last thing I want to ask you about. all of this DER and wind and solar, now thermal, all of it coming in where we have gone from a step down grid to a step everywhere. It's just stuff coming on.
Exactly.
And it's getting worse, not better.
Yep.
Is creating more harmonics, more transients, and harmonics are really affecting things like data centers, smart homes. I mean, they can't take much because that's just the nature of the beast. Some of smart buildings. So you're seeing more and more that the harmonics are creating a problem because of all of this tightness of control systems. Is that something that you all are seeing and are able to do something about?
When I was at the bushing factory, I was a bushing guy for 38 years, we started seeing renewables have failures of transformers. And most 34 kV bushings. They blame it. Everybody always blames it on the bushing because the porcelain's all over the yard, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But they realized that they weren't shipping bad bushings to you. They're brand new. They've already been through the transformer testing at the OEM. The testing at the factory for the bushing is more stringent than it would ever see in the field.
Yeah.
But the harmonic part of it is the catch. Yeah. And so a lot of people have went to dry type bushings because many of the dry type technology people make bushings for rail and things like that have to be more stringent for that certain application. So I've seen a lot of people replace oil impregnated porcelain bushings with resin impregnated paper or synthetic type bushings to get away from that failure mode from the harmonics.
Okay.
Not that we have enough data yet to say that was the answer, but so far the ones they replaced with are still working.
Excellent. Randy, thanks so much.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Randy Williams,
Always a pleasure.
we always do this, we always have fun.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure.